Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to another in the JBDC Virtual Biz Zone series. My name is Sansia Campbell, and I'm so pleased that you have joined us this morning. So this morning, we are going to continue with our Innovate Jamaica series. And of course, this is going to be the final presentation in that series. As you know, we do 2 presentations per series. So last session, we had our Nigerian diplomat with us, Mr. Alao Lukman, and that was a very interesting, informative, and exciting session. I mean, we were on here for, I think, the whole entire 2 hours. So this morning, as I said, we are going to continue with that series, and we have with us this morning my friend. She's my friend. And her name is Laura Lee Jones, and she is the head of department for applied arts at the Endemande College. She's also an entrepreneur. She's a mom, but outside of that, she's a very passionate person about the gift and craft industry. If you talk about anything artsy, anything earthy, you're calling her. I think her middle name would be Laura Lee Craft Jones. Right? That would be her. So she's going to be sharing with us this morning on modernizing the Jamaican craft industry. So I beg of you, if this is going to be an interactive presentation, feel free to drop your questions in the chat and also pop your hand up so that we can acknowledge you for questions. Just so you know as well, the session is being recorded. And so if you know anyone who did not have a chance to join us this morning, they will be able to get the session on our YouTube channel later on. You can also follow us on any of our social media platforms, Facebook, IG, Twitter. They call Twitter X now, but the same thing, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my friend Laura, and she's going to take you through a very interactive and interesting presentation. So feel free to just participate. All right, thank you so much, and it's over to you, Laura.
Thank you, Sancio. Is everyone hearing me okay? I hope you're hearing me fine. So I just need one person to say, yes, I'm hearing you clearly.
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly.
Fabulous, fabulous.
I'm hearing you as well.
Great. Good morning, everyone. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the JBDC team for inviting me to this session. Once upon a time, I had closer relationships with JBDC. I worked there for a while. And so it's always a pleasure when I'm asked to share my views. And I want to put that disclaimer there now that a lot of what you're going to hear from me, they're my views and my own musings about the gift and craft sector, having been a player in the sector and still am a player in the sector. So this morning I was asked to look at modernizing the craft sector in Jamaica. And I'm going to take you through a short presentation, a PowerPoint that I put together. And as Sansia said, I want this to really be a conversation because it's not just my views. They say I'm an expert, but boy, I'm still learning. And I really want to engage and hear your views as I share my own views with you as well. And I'm not sure if Miss V and Mr. Davis are in the room, but I say good morning to the leadership of the JBDC team. And I thank all those who have joined in. So I'm just going to go right into sharing my screen. Just give me a moment. Let me get this going. I don't have any sound. And let's go in slide view. Everyone see my screen?
Yes, we are. Put awesome. It on screen slideshow though.
I just did. So yes. You're seeing it now?
Yes, it's great.
Awesome. Fabulous. So as I said, my name is Laura Jones. So we're going to talk about innovation, modernizing traditional Jamaican craft. Now, I have a little bit of a history background. I studied history. So usually I like to start a conversation just looking at some of the historical background. And so I start by just looking at, even before I go there, sorry, there are 4 areas I'm going to kind of focus my conversation on or around. And we're going to be looking at understanding the historical precedents, organizing a craft sector, brand Jamaica, and it has a big question sign, and you'll see why it has a question sign when I go through the presentation. And then we're looking at innovation in traditional craft production. So I'll talk about Jamaica, but I'm also talking about the global space, because we're no longer just an island existing without any kind of knowing what's happening outside. So when I speak, I'm also speaking with that frame of mind about a global perspective as well. All right, so let's get into just a brief some historical notations about our own craft production here in Jamaica. From my point of view, and you can correct me for those who don't share the view, I still believe that our craft production is junior. We're still in the developmental stage when you compare to countries like Africa, India, Japan, and even some parts of Latin America. Why do I say this? Because those other countries have had a much longer tradition, thousands of years of tradition in craft production. Now, some people may want to say, well, we do have a long tradition. We have the Tainos and we have the Africans who came as enslaved individuals and others. And that is true. But when I speak about an organized craft production, I'm really talking about organized in the sense where there is a long and extended family connection or community involved in craft production. So you're talking about generations where traditional ways of making craft have been passed down through communities, through families. So that's what I mean when I talk about we're relatively junior to some of these other spaces. In some areas, craft production or craft making survived predominantly through retention. So I just mentioned, and I'm talking here now, I'm moving towards our colonial past, right? So a lot of, there's some areas that we see the retention. It wasn't really a systematic way of saying, I'm going to teach this generation how to do or how to make. Some of it was from memory or ancestors' memory. Some of it was through sharing oral traditions, right? So it's there, but it's not there. Right. I'll come back to that point. The other point I have here is that craft production in some areas is a result of syncretism, meaning it's a mixture and a blend of different cultures, different people, different ways of doing things. So again, sticking with the colonial past, yes, we had retentions, African retentions, but then those retentions were fused with some of the things that were being taught and brought to the Africans through the European interaction, through the interaction with the Europeans. So, for example, the idea of the terracotta Spanish jar, I think I'm hoping some of us know what I'm talking about. That became one of the items that, when we had a more buoyant ceramic industry and we had places like Clays of Jamaica, the Spanish jar was one of those features that became a popular item in Jamaican craft, right? But there's the influence of the Spanish. So that's what I mean about that kind of syncretism, okay? So I talk about the colonial past because it has impacted how we have evolved in this space of craft production, how the society has evolved, how the country has evolved. So it's important to have a kind of understanding of that. We cannot have a serious conversation about craft production without looking at that kind of historical background or backdrop. While I'm still talking about, and even before I move to organizing the sector, I also want to make a point about the fact that in a colonial society, resources are exploited. And that did happen in Jamaica. Lots and lots of the natural resources of the island were exploited to the point of extinction. So, for example, indigo. Indigo was produced widely in Jamaica in the 17th century and before. And ports in like Falmouth, there would be lots and lots of indigo that was shipped out of Jamaica to go to the metropole. Today, there is still wild indigo in Jamaica, but very little of it. And there is a scholar, there's someone now who's based her research on, in a way, revitalizing and re-energizing indigo production in Jamaica, the wild indigo. And she's doing her PhD studies surrounding that and looking at growing the indigo in parts of St. Catherine. So that's active research that's taking place right now. There are other resources that we can talk about that have been exploited, not necessarily to the benefit of the country or to the citizens of the country, but just to understand, and we all know the history, colonialism was not about the benefit to Jamaica. It was mostly about exploitation. And so as I go in the discussion, as I go further in the discussion, you'll understand why I make reference to that. Another point I want to bring up here as well is when we talk about the sustainable use of our resources and how we maintain those, I really don't think we've had serious and strategic conversations around that. And I guess some of you on the platform will share the view that there are some resources that are in decline. And because we have not strategically thought about how we are going to maintain and sustain and even replenish some of these resources, we can see that some of them we just won't have. Maybe for another, in another 20 years, 10 years or less, we won't have. And if we don't have a systematic program for addressing how we replant Jippy Jappa, for example, how we replant and maintain Wicca, how we maintain, replenish, if we can, our ceramic, our clay, right? If we don't start having serious conversations around that, then we are going to be in even more dire situations than we are now. I spoke about retention, which is good in a way and also bad. Good in the sense that the essence, the sense to create, and that essence of the need to create and to make things, it's in our blood, right? Not only African blood, but I think all traditional societies, that ability to create and make things and to make utilitarian things, it's in our blood, right? And some of us may even say it comes from our ancestors, and that's a good thing. Why is it a bad thing though? It is bad in the sense that if we look at oral traditions, for example, oral traditions can die and can get modified if we don't have a systematic way of documenting, right? So I know I'm not sure of the demographic of my audience, but I'm sure there are some people in the audience who would say, you know, once upon a time in Jamaica there was X, Y, and Z. I don't see that anymore. Or you'll hear conversations like, boy, them young people, you know, them young people are here, them don't know them things, you know, them don't know about these things, right? That's because in some areas, as it relates to our culture and our traditions, we have not captured them in a way that makes it available to the next generation, for want of a better word. And so some of these traditions are dying. The storytellers are making their transition, and not enough of us who are still here on this plane are hearing those stories, knowing those stories. Again, once upon a time, it was customary for young people to say, all right, we're going to the country for the summer. We're going to go visit grandma, grandpa, your aunt or so in the country. And some people would be, you know, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready for that adventure because of the things they would learn, the stories they would hear. You know, you go to the ground with grandpa and you pick apple and you replanting and you know you learn things more and more as we become more of a, I guess, modern and contemporary society. Some of those experiences are no longer available to youngsters, right? And so this is why I say, you know, retentions are good, but it can also be bad if we are not systematically recording and researching and documenting what we know is part of our culture and part of our history, because we will forget it in time. All right. So now let's move to a conversation about, since this is not a history class, let's move to now a conversation about organizing a craft sector or industry. So I want to start with this conversation about a business model or applying a business model approach. And I'm sure many of you on the platform would have heard this term bantered all around: business model, business model, business model. And it's not really new, it's not a new term. I think in our history, we have had varying degrees of business models as it relates to the gift and craft sector. But while I'm here talking about business model, let us just understand some of the tenets, for want of a better word, of a business model, which are very crucial to defining your business, growing your business, sustaining your business. Again, as I said before, some of you on the platform may be well familiar with some of what I am saying here, but I will still reinforce. So one of the crucial things is defining the customer segment. We can no longer just say, well, I'm just going to make. I like to create things and I'm just going to make. I really don't care who is buying it. I don't have a target audience in mind. That can work for some days, but it won't work for all days. Now we're in a space where you really have to understand your customer segments, or in some instances, they talk about the avatar, right? You have to know them, and you have to know them intimately, you know, where the schools they go to, where they eat, where they shop, their entertainment, their income, their age group, their gender. You know, there's so many things about defining your customer segment. So for a creative, for a maker, it's not enough to be creative and to just want to make things, Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to turn a profit. You want to be able to go back to the supply store to buy more supplies, to make more things. So it's important to know who is that person who's going to purchase, who's going to support your business. You also need to be able to define the value proposition. Now that sounds like some big fancy word, but what is that really? That is really asking, what value are you creating for the person, the customer that you are seeking? What are you, what problem do they have if they have a problem that you're solving for them? Why should they be doing business with you? Why should they be buying your product as against the many other products and options that are available? And boy, there's so many options now. I mean, we can just look at Amazon. You can find everything on Amazon. Once upon a time, there was this business, I can't remember the name of it. It was a haberdashery that says, from a pin to an anchor, right? Now we have online space where from a pin to an anchor, you can find that. So things are available to people who are buying. So you as the creative, you as the maker, you as the business owner, the entrepreneur, you have to now sit and really consider, why should someone buy my product? What value am I providing to them? Right? What product? What's unique about what I do? Right? Those kinds of questions can now be linked into that value proposition, defining the value proposition. You also need to detail and define the strategies for getting your customers, for keeping your customers, and for growing your customers, right? So again, no longer can we just sit back, and I say we because I'm an entrepreneur as well. Sit back and say, oh well, yeah, I got some good sales this week, and yeah, man, the things them good, man, it good like that. So so I'm gonna just tell other people and just go and come. It doesn't quite work like that anymore. We have to do some more work to understand, okay, so I made a sale this week, I made a sale the following week, not sure if we'll make a sale the next week. So what kind of strategy am I going to put in place to ensure that I'm always making a sale, to ensure that customers keep coming back and that customers will share their experience with other people? The word of mouth thing, share with other people to say, yeah, man, big up Sansia's production, you got to check her out. It's no longer we just sit back and it happens. We have to develop strategies for doing that. Can't rely only on word of mouth. Can't rely only on the fact that you say, yeah, man, it's the next best thing. It's like sliced bread. Have to define your strategy. Have to have a way to do that. You also have to be able to detail the resources that you're going to need to provide the value proposition that you're putting forward. So if, for example, I am saying, I am a seamstress, I'm a dressmaker, I'm a designer, however you want to coin it, and I provide, I'll do your outfits and you get them in 24 hours, for argument's sake. And you put that out there. Now you have to really think, okay, I tell people that I can deliver in 24 hours. How do I do that? What do I need to do that? Right? So that's what I mean about detailing the resources that you need. So anything that you say, so if you say it's just in time, if you say it is the highest quality, if you say it is the latest technology, whatever kind of descriptor you put on the service or product that you're providing to your customers, whatever you tell them you're doing, you have to stop and think now, if I say I'm doing just in time, if I say I am providing the latest technology, what do I need to deliver that? Right? Very, very important, because it makes no sense. We can't fool the customers. We can't fool the consumers anymore. They're doing their research. They have options. So they won't just buy what you say anymore, right? So when you make claims about what it is your product or service does, you have to think about, do I have the resources to deliver on that? You also need to know how you're going to get your products to your customers. What's the channel or channels that you're going to use to get to your customers? Now, sometimes for small business entrepreneurs, this can seem like, well, I set up a store, or I do online, or I set up an Instagram page, okay, fine. We do have those tools. But have you defined your customer segment to the point where you know where they are and how they want to get the products that you have? So, to give you an example, it's going to be way out, but I'll give you an example. So let's say I decide that I want to provide a product for seniors, retired, have some kind of disposable income, and yeah, I think they'll like my product. But then I decide that, okay, I want to do an Instagram page. How many of our seniors, or how many of those seniors that I'm going to be targeting, have an Instagram page, are connected like that? And there are some of them who are, I have a friend, she's 85, and she's just so savvy with her Facebook and her WhatsApp. But I say this to say, if we are saying that, I'm going to do Instagram, is that customer segment that you're really going after, right? Elderly, are they on Instagram? And if they're not on Instagram, how are you going to get the products to them? Where do you find them? So you have to do some homework on that, right? So I'm going to open up a question, a quick one here, because I feel like I'm talking to myself and I want to hear some of you. So given that scenario that I just shared, as I said, it's kind of way out, but I'm putting some of you to the test. I have a product that I'm targeting seniors. They're all not on Instagram. Where could I find some of these seniors? Anyone? Sansa, you can monitor that for me. Maybe the hands will go up or something. Where's a possible place I could be, finding customers?
Am I allowed to answer?
Sure.
The church group.
Aye, that's a lovely one. There you go. Right on the money, Sansa.
That as well in the chat.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Right on the money. Because we know our seniors, they're going to their prayer meetings, they're going to church service, and they're also volunteering their time at the church. So there's a strong community there, right? So I'm not going to belabor the points anymore. I think you get it. It just means as entrepreneurs, as makers, we have a lot more work that we have to do. But don't feel as if it's daunting, because get help if you need help. If it's not your strong point, don't be afraid to get the help. And I'm going to talk about collaboration a little later. We have to get out of this mentality where we feel that we have to do everything ourselves. We don't have to do everything ourselves. And if COVID taught us anything, you saw all those big companies that somehow they just kind of merged to keep the ship floating. We got to learn some of those principles to collaborate. Okay, so I'm moving along. Still continuing on the business model. You'll also have to be able to identify key partnerships that you have to establish, that need to be established. And this links into that point about collaboration, right? So again, we can't do everything ourselves. And we have to collaborate. We have to establish partnerships. That's how we are going to grow and stay viable in our business. We have to identify all costs. I don't mean some, all. So we do have a tendency, and you notice I use the word we, right? We do have a tendency to not include all our costs. It's imperative, it's important that we know every inch, every millimeter, right? What it costs us to deliver on our value propositions, to deliver the products that we are making for our customers. And we also need to understand, how will we make money? How will we make money? And in some cases, you may need to have varying ways of making money. We refer to that as income streams. You may have varying possibilities for making money. So you might make money from making and selling products, but you may also make money. Maybe you bring in some material and you bring in excess material sometimes that you don't use it all in your production, and you find that there is someone who will buy that off you, right? Or you have done such a fabulous website. I'm not the techie person. I'm not the, what's the word? I wouldn't say the techie person, but if any tech people in the audience, you can back me up here. So you may do an awesome website. You have a lot of traffic coming through your website, where you can also start selling ads through your site, right? There are just different possibilities that exist now that, 15, 20 years ago, it didn't seem as if there were so many possibilities and opportunities. So we don't only have to focus on selling products or selling services. There are other ways to, vary your income stream. But again, that is going to come from a clear understanding of who you're targeting, the channels that you're going to use to get to these individuals, the resources that you're going to need, what it's going to cost you, right? So on the business model canvas, there are 9 pillars, and you need to be able to understand and to answer questions on these 9 pillars. Any questions there for me, Sancio, before I move on? Or any comments coming in? All right, so I'm moving now from the business model, and we can talk more about that when we open up a more, fulsome conversation. Now I'm going to talk about the global, understanding the global positioning of craft. And I want to say at this point, I feel that it is time that the word craft sometimes have these negative kinds of associations in people's minds. Craft, for some people, still, they feel if someone's a craft maker, it's someone you can go to a craft fair and you can barter and beat down them price because they're the maker. Craft also has this negative association where people feel that, oh, it's the people them who can do maths and English to do craft. So we have that in our society, and it's not only this space, in other spaces as well. So I want
Laura?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So you were talking about some nine pillars.
Yes.
All right. Did you mention what it was? Because somebody said they missed it.
Okay. Yes. So I was talking about the business model canvas.
Oh, okay.
And it's right. So and for those who don't know, you can Google it. And I'm sure JBDC can also provide you a template with that. It's a tool that you use, a tool that was developed to help entrepreneurs, especially small and micro businesses, to look at a different way to understand their business model. What makes your business run? How it runs, the resources that you need, right? So you have these 5 columns on the canvas that looks at your customer segment. It looks at the channels for getting your customers. It looks at your customer relationships. It looks at your revenue stream, your cost structure, key partnerships, key resources, your value proposition, right? So it's a tool that you can use to help you to understand how you do your business or how you want to position your business. Yeah. And it's a little different from doing a business plan, and it doesn't replace the business plan. Let me hasten to say that, right? It does not replace the business plan, but it's a tool that really gets you out the door, to not just staying in your little comfort zone and working on it, but it also pushes you to get out the door and to speak to those prospective customers that you are seeking to engage with, right? So we're no longer sitting in a room and deciding, oh, I want to make orange pants. And that's the next hot thing. It's also forcing you to get out the room to say, okay, I know Sansia might like orange pants. So let me go talk to Sansia. Sansia, what do you think about orange pants? I want to make orange knickers or something. And then Sansia said, orange, no, some don't want a pants. Some skirt me want. Now, what do we do with that information? When you talk to a prospective customer and the customer said, but I don't want pants, I want skirt. What do? Do you go back to your studio and say, well, she idiot. She don't know some my pants are the best thing since sliced bread. Or do we say, okay, I never thought of skirts. So let me see how many other people want skirts, right? So that your canvas is that kind of a tool that allows you to do your prototyping and get feedback, and you know what I mean? So you're not making everything in one go. It's really encouraging you to get feedback every step of the way. Every step of the way. Every idea. You're always getting feedback from whether it's your partners or the customers, etc. Right? So it's a very interactive tool. So if you're not familiar with it, I'm encouraging you all to look up a template, right? There are also other tools as well, like there's a creative canvas. There are varying tools that you can use to help you to, work through your business and your business model. All right, so moving on now to, are there any other questions before I go ahead? Anything in the chat, Sancio? Can I move forward?
Honey, can go ahead.
Awesome. So now let's talk a little bit about the global positioning of craft. And what do I really mean by that? It's really talking about the bigger picture of craft. So not just craft in Jamaica, but craft globally. The views on craft and handmade and the creative sector. So now we're going to position craft within the cultural and creative industries, right? And I am pulling here, I'm making reference here to move my screen a little bit, the Creative Economy Outlook report from 2022. And this is quoting directly from them, right? So the gift and handmade sector falls within the cultural and creative industries, as I said, also referred to as CCIs. The cultural sector accounts for 3.1% of global domestic product, right? They're also saying that cultural and creative industry provides 6.2% of all employment, generating nearly 50 million jobs worldwide, employing more young people between the ages of 15 to 29. And this is greater here in this industry than any other sector. Why did I put that there? To underscore the point that it's big business. It's not monkey business, it's a big business. So the next time someone tries to barter with you about what you do, what you make, you have to put it in context for them to understand that, look, man, this is big business. Globally, this is big business. It's impacting lives. it is impacting young lives, right? So if we can get this formula right, and we've been trying this for a very long time, yeah, but it's time for us to get it right because it's impacting young lives. Lots of graduates from the universities are turning to entrepreneurship. They're turning to craft and handmade products and services as the answer. So a lot of graduates are not leaving university and college anymore to go look at work. They are creating their own opportunities, right? So that's the global context of craft and how craft is viewed globally. Now I have here some problems, questions that, I'm going to throw these out to you all, and you don't have to answer now, but I want you to really think about some of these questions and problems. So we look here at gaps in the market or market gaps. Are there gaps in our markets and in our offerings in craft and handmade? Right? And you can write those down, because then when we open up the conversation, I want to hear some of your answers. Do you think we have gaps in the market? Who are our customers? See, I keep asking that question. Who are really our customers? Do we know who our customers really are? Do we really know? We talk about now the financials. Are you really making mega bucks? You making money? Or is it just a hobby that we're keeping alive? And what does your financial record reveal? Can you say you're making, and don't take me to task about the mega bucks, right? But are you really making money? Or are you just simply doing something just for the sake of doing it? Right? It keeps you occupied. My next question here is, what is it really costing you or costing us in this business of craft production? And I'm not sure if I have any policymakers in the room, but these are questions I'm throwing out to policymakers and to the ministries responsible for the development of craft in Jamaica. These are some of the questions that I throw out to policymakers as well. Yes, it is nice to say, oh yeah, man, craft. Sometimes I find that craft is like an appendage to something, all right, let's put on a craft here. So we have an event, so we want some vendors come and put up some tents and them can sell them where. Yeah. There's no real thought given to, are we actually bringing in buyers who will, do business with these vendors? Or we just want to have a little thing, a kind of a village, so that there's an extra thing for them to do, but they don't really have to buy anything, but there's something else for them to do. Sometimes I feel that some of these events are geared like that. It's just about, okay, it look pretty up the place, and when people get tired of hearing, the talk and whatever, they can browse and maybe they will buy something. But if they're not buying nothing, it's okay, right? So I really want us to think about those questions more deeply. So the next time an event is organized and we're going to invite our handmade makers, that there's really some serious thought given to the customers who are going to come, the buyers who are going to come to now do business with these makers. Let's see, am I frozen?
Laura, there's a question in the chat.
Okay.
So Coral Williams says, there is no question that craft is big business and should be highly valued. But how do we get customers to appreciate that value when you consider so many of the same things are available due to mass market productions in China,
All right.
notwithstanding that the quality is less?
Got you. Great question. And I think a little later down, I tackle that. But let me answer that. So you see, I spend a lot of time talking about defining who your customer segment is. That's such a very crucial part of what we have to do as entrepreneurs. Very, very important. First of all, let me say handmade, and I think I made this point later down, but I'm going to say it now. Craft production and handmade is not a mass market product. And I don't know how many makers are in the room. When you go and you buy your raw materials and you spend your time and you have to invest in materials and equipment to make your products, it's not easy. It's not we're not competing with big factories. We don't have no big factory here turning out coconut buttons, for argument's sake, right? Things that are done with your hand, right, predominantly should not be positioned in a mass market. So it means that we have to do some more work to understand who exactly is buying and which part of the market are we going to position our products. A lot of our craft in Jamaica is not for a mass market. It's expensive and it should be positioned in a market that's a mid-market or a high-end market. Now we have to do some work to find the customers who are in those markets and also to present the products in the way that these customers will respond to them, right? Because there are different markets. In the broad sense, we have mass markets, we have high-end markets, and then we have that middle ground. And that can be broken down even further. And this is why I'm underscoring the point about who is your real customer. So yes, I worry about China, but I also don't worry about China because I cannot compete with China. And I'm not going to try to compete with China. What we have to focus on is ensuring that whatever we are doing, you're doing the best quality. You're giving, it's not just about a product. And as I said, there are some points here that I'm making that I'm going to come back to later on in the presentation. It's no longer just about a product anymore. People are buying experiences. So they want to hear the story. They want to engage with the maker. They want to go back home and say, you know, I got this carving in Ocho Rios and I watched the man carve it. And he told me it's going to be ready in 2 days. And I came back in 2 days and it was ready. But I saw when he had the bare wood, whether it's guangu or whether it's lignum vitae. I share with you an experience I had in my summer travels this year. I was in Chicago, I think it was, yes. And I was taking the train and I encountered two individuals who were taking the same train as I was. I wasn't so familiar. They were a little more familiar. So we struck up a conversation and I told them I was from Jamaica. And they said, oh, Jamaica. You know, people just love Jamaica, right? And they told me of their story of, you know, spending some time in Jamaica, did their holiday here, and they got a carving from a carver in Fern Gully. And they were quite pleased with the item they got because they said they told the man what they wanted. And he told them when to come back, 2 days or something like that. And when they came back, exactly what they wanted, he carved, and they're just over the moon about the skills set, the fact that he was able to deliver it in the 2 days as he said he would. And that for them was like a highlight, a high point of their visit in Jamaica, being able to take something back where they know the maker of the item, they had some amount of, you know, input in that item, and the fact that, you know, it was done, it was, they could afford it as well, the quality, etc. So I make that point to say, Sometimes we beat up on, the carvers in in Fern Gully for what they make, but they have a model, you know what I mean? And they're responding to their customers and they know who their market is, right? So we have to do that. We have to stop. Listen, they we have signed all kind of treaties that, I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we're going to say stop all imports from China or wherever in the world they're coming from, right? Because we've signed on to treaties that talk about free trade and all of these grand things. What we have to focus on is what do we do best? What can we master? What can we do that China doesn't have? Because believe me, there are individuals across the globe who want a unique item made in their hometown or made in Jamaica from a Jamaican maker that is of high quality, that is of a good price, that is representative of the culture. So not everybody wants something that has made in Jamaica, but it really stamped out in China or anywhere else, because China is not the only place that is mass producing craft, right? So we have to get to that point where we stop talking about China and the mass produced items of China, because we're not seeking to compete with mass produced products from China. So unless that is the market segment you're going after, where you want to be engaged in the space for mass produced craft and art items, then that's a different story. You have to now look at the resources that you will need to be able to compete with those economies of scale that can turn these things out in 24 hours and have them shipped. But if you're not seeking to be competing with China, what can we do better than China that is authentic Jamaican or Caribbean that can be sold to the diaspora anywhere in the world who is craving for a piece of their island? And trust me, I tell you, there are people out there. We got to do the homework to find them. We're not finding them, right? So I'm not going to belabor that point anymore because we can have a whole conversation around that. Another point I wanted to make, as we talk about customer segment, and I think I've made it, over the last 30 years or so, I'm not sure if we, and when I say we, I'm talking about not just us makers, but I'm also talking about our policymakers, ministers in whether it's tourism or industry, etc., that we've really examined our visitor profile and to really get cued in on what it is our visitors are really asking for, right? I know that the tourist board, they do a survey, they do these surveys and they do post findings on their website. I don't know if it still obtains. I don't know if Mrs. Taylor is online. But once upon a time, you could go onto the JTV website and you could get some statistics, for example, about the visitor, the spend, the things they're spending on. So, t-shirt had always held a high place because t-shirts is just so easy to carry. And there are certain other items that were always in the top sellers for visitors. But I think it's time for a real hard look at that profile, the profile of the visitors who are coming, and what exactly are they wanting to take back home that will be their little memorabilia of their Jamaican experience. And we're not just talking about souvenir items, no, keychains and that. Talking a bit more about things that they want to adorn their homes or even to collect like art pieces, etc. What are they really asking for. And I say this because in another lifetime, I worked in a space in Ocherius, Wasi Art to be exact. And Wasi Art in Great Pond, they had a nice model where they had the factory and they would do tours. So people would come off the cruise ships and they could come up to the factory and, you know, they tour, they see the items being made. The tour would usually end in the showroom, and then they would purchase their products and they go on to their merry, you know, go back on to the ships, etc. Now, one of the good things about Wasi Art's model at the time was they had a partnership with DHL. So for those cruise ship passengers who came and they saw bigger items that they couldn't take on the ships, right? The partnership with DHL ensured that their packages would be packaged and sent to their homes. So by the time they got home from their cruise, their packages would be there waiting for them. Some of the key questions that they asked, or one of the key questions that many of the visitors asked when you told them that, you know, it could be shipped, your item can be shipped through DHL was, is there insurance? Because we're talking about breakable items, ceramic items. So there was always that question about insurance. And yes, there was insurance. So there was the assurance to them that if their item broke, it would be covered. And so many customers would fork out their credit cards and they would be buying really large ceramic vase and pots and stuff that they couldn't take on the ship, but relied on that, you know, being sent to via DHL. I don't even know why I shared that story because I forgot the point I was making. But again, understanding your customer, understanding what your customers require, and then looking at the resources that you need to facilitate what your customers require is crucial to the business, right? So forget China for a moment. How can we spend some more time understanding the visitors, if we're looking at the tourist market, who come and what are they really seeking in terms of an item to take back that reminds them of their experience in Jamaica, in the Caribbean. Yeah, that's very important. Oh, I remember the point now. I don't think we're at the levels of the ministries, etc. We're doing enough to really ascertain and then to be able to share that information with our makers. Yeah, to say, look, these are the gaps. Remember, we spoke about gaps. It's on the screen. These are the gaps. These are the areas that require some attention because we're losing. People are going back home with monies in their pocket because guess what? The visitors are quite savvy these days. They are going online and they're doing their research. They're eking out the places that they're going to visit. So it's no longer they're coming here blindly. They're coming here and telling us things about our country that we don't even know. So we need to be a lot more in tune with that and to be able to know, ascertain those gaps and to fill those gaps. I share with you another experience I had coming in through, I traveled through Sangsters International Airport. And coming in, I thought to myself, why does the airport look so shoddy? It doesn't feel, and this is the harbor. This is our harbor. Why the airport feels so? Remember my disclaimer when I started, these are my views. Okay. But I thought the airport looked shoddy for somewhere where we talk about the increase in visitorship. We talk about the increase in return visitors because they're enjoying their experiences so well here in Jamaica. Why don't I feel like that when I come through the airport? And it is not enough just to put up the picture or a painting of our national heroes. We need to, your senses should be ignited when you walk through the airports in Jamaica. The sound, the smell, everything, your entire, all five senses should be tantalized when you land on that tarmac and when you get off and you enter to go into customs. You should be so incensed that you can't contain yourself, right? I can't remember, where did we go? It could have been St. Kitts, I can't remember right now. But I remember when we got off the plane, right? Of course, it's a smaller airport. We were greeted with, I think it was rum punch made with their, their local rum. Because they want you to start getting that. Remember, I talk about experience. People, our visitors, our travelers, even take ourselves when we travel, wherever we go, whether it's Boston or Las Vegas or Europe, wherever we go, we want to be tantalized. We want that experience to start the minute we jump on that plane. We want to start having that excited experience. And I feel that we can do a lot more, especially in our airports, to make that experience just so awesome, with the sound and the smell and the sight and everything, so that the senses, by the time they clear customs, they're ready to go. They're ready to go. Blue Mountain, Port Royal, Greenwood Great House, you name it. There's a lot more that we can do. And then when they go to these spaces, where are the products that represent this experience? And those products shouldn't be coming from China. Those products should be made right here in Jamaica. So you go to Devon House. Devon House is touted as having among the best ice cream in the world. Where are the memorabilia, which is made locally, that will remind the visitor about that experience at Devon House? Port Royal is the same thing. We've built out a cruise ship pier. They're revitalizing the port. But are those products, what percentage of those products are actually made locally? Why is it coming in from elsewhere? Questions to be answered, but also opportunities for us as makers to start doing the research and tapping into these untapped areas. The Blue and Drunker Mountains is a World Heritage Site. For the visitors who go, what are the products that will now remind them of that experience? And I know the Maroon community, they have stuff, but is it enough? So we have untapped areas that we should tap into, people. Believe me, let us do the research, because the visitor is no longer and can no longer be fooled. When they get on a cruise ship, for example, and they go to Antigua and they go to St. Lucia, and they might come to Jamaica or the Bahamas, and they see the same keyring with the same image, and it just said Bahamas or Jamaica, we can't fool them anymore. So what is authentic about what we are offering? Okay, I think my slide is stuck. Any questions there, Sansia? Closing out and coming back in. I think my screen froze.
Yeah, I have a comment from when we were talking about the markets, the position for the markets and stuff. So Dana Boss said, I agree with the point about Jamaica seeking a mid to high end market and not being able to compete with China and India. However, it's counter to the world or global size of the market. If we cannot increase productive capacity, we will never be able to capture that big business, even on a smaller scale compared to China. The truth is, for our industry to grow, some people will have to work for someone who already has a studio. Everyone cannot be a brand. So where do we
bridge? Great point, Dana.
Hold on. Where do we bridge the gap? How do persons like myself grow our businesses to supply demand of staffing when to supply demand of staffing is an issue?
Great point. I don't have all the answers, but I do, at the end of the presentation, I talk about collaboration. We don't collaborate enough because for a lot of us, we want to be the stars, right? And in the classroom, for example, when I talk to the fashion students, I say to them, you know, all of you won't be on that stage doing the walk after the end of the fashion show. That's like 20% of it. The real work is behind the scenes where you have a full team who makes that happen. In 5 minutes, you have a fashion show and it's over. The real work is behind the scenes with the team of seamstresses, the team of pattern makers, the team of marketers, the team of illustrators, and all of that, right? So I think for us, we have to decide. I like to talk about the value chain. What part of the value chain do we want to occupy? Better yet, what part of the value chain are we really, really, really good at? Because not all of us will be able to make products that's going to hit a global stage. You'll be able to produce it in the volume to meet, you know, the demand. Not all of us will be able to do that. But more of us will have to collaborate to make the possibilities happen. So if I'm very good at pattern making and I'm comfortable in my skin to work with Mr. Hall, as Mr. Hall being the lead designer, why should I feel less than because I'm the pattern maker? Because when I shine, or when Mr. Hall shines, I am shining because I'm doing a stellar job. Yeah. So Dana, I don't have all the answers to that. And it's going to take some, I don't even want to say some more conversation because I think we do a lot of talking. We're going to have to do some more digging and researching to find those niche markets that can work for the individuals who cannot compete with the economies of scale. And I believe and I know there's a space for individuals to do what they love, but everyone won't have the same, what's the word, the same positioning. Everyone won't be at the front all the time. But we need more players on the value chain to get to the front. We need more, for example, we have a shortage of seamstresses in Jamaica right now. Every other fashion designer or fashion house tells you they're looking for seamstresses. People who are in shoe manufacturing cannot find seamstresses because most people feel that to be at the front, that is where all the action is. So I want to be the lead designer. I am not going to work with anyone. And okay, that's fine. But we also have to understand that not all of us will be at the front of the line. So where do we want the sector or the industry to be? And it can only get there. We can only be the fashion capital of the Caribbean, of the region, if the value chain is leveled. And then we have the players at every point of the chain, including the people who are going to do the marketing, including the individuals who are going to supply the raw materials, including the bankers understanding what we need to make the business run, the students who are going to come up to now carry on the tradition. We need to just level it. We need to have a clear understanding. I think everyone wants to be the star, and we can't all be the stars. I'll come back to that. So we asked some questions earlier, and as I said, I want to hear from some of you, your views or responses to some of those questions / problems. Now, I have some solutions here. I don't have all the answers, right? But one of the things I said here is that we need to close the gap. And if we can identify gaps, gaps provide opportunities. So, for example, we always hear our men say, boy, there's just not enough products. At Christmas time, there's just not enough products for men, locally made products for men. Very few gifting options for men. Who is filling that gap? Seriously looking at that and looking at what are the needs of our men right across the spectrum. What are some of the things that they would buy? Because we also hear that men don't buy. So you really can't count on them to grow your business. That's not true. That is not true. I could share a story with you, but I won't. Men love to shop, but they also are very picky and very, very precise about the things they want. Right? So how do we fill that gap? Right? I saw recently, I think it's Mark Anthony who launched his line of travel bags and stuff. We know Brescia as well. Yeah. So how do we spend some time understanding that customer segment, men, and the range, the age range, the demographic, to know now what are the particular things that we could now provide for men as gifting options for Christmas time or otherwise, right? On the target audience, I say here, know that you cannot target everyone. We have a way to say, yeah, man, everybody, I'm gonna sell to everybody. But realistically, everyone can be a target market, right? Because there are going to be some nuances with each of that segment, market segments or target segments, right? You want to be able to select the ones that you're most familiar with in terms of the needs and how those needs are going to align with the resources that you have to do production. Sometimes we take on a little bit more than we can chew. Sometimes we're not focused. We're trying to do too many things. And sometimes you have to shed. You have to shed and just focus your energies at the thing that you can do extremely well and run with that and grow with that. We also have to look at our cost savings. We have to reduce our expenses. Boy, we live in Jamaica, so we understand that expense thing. Things go up daily. Just let the gas price move and see what happens, right? So we have to find ways to reduce expenses and to develop our own models, our own sustainability models, right? However, that is, I don't know how that takes shape because that's going to be dependent on the kind of business you're doing. But every step of the way, there should be some deliberate focus on cost savings. Financials, I'm coming back to that financials. You got to know your money. You have to know the money. You have to keep the records. So don't even bother tell me that you can't afford QuickBooks and you can't afford an accountant and okay, fine. But the simplest method, get an exercise book, get a leisure book, write it down. It has to be recorded because sometimes we fail to record and we don't see where we're losing because we have no sense of what it is costing us. We don't even recognize that the second time when we went back to the store, $10 go on the fabric or the thread or the whatever. Because we're just doing. We have to record. And I know some of us hate that part of it. Get help. Get help if you can't do it, but you have to know your dollars and cents. You have to know the money. Is the money working for you? You know what I mean? All right. Before I move here, any other comments there, Sansa? Everybody hearing me still?
Yeah, we're still hearing it. Not
Awesome.
okay.
All right.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing.
Okay, awesome. All right, so now let's go talk. And this is where I want to really open up a little conversation here Sansa, you can keep me on track with this one. Brand Jamaica. Brand Jamaica. We hear this every day. But can anybody tell me, what does brand Jamaica mean to you as an individual? Not what they say in the papers, not what the minister says. When you hear brand Jamaica, what comes to your mind? We can take about 3 responses, Sansa, where people can open their mic and say. I'm inviting.
Yeah, man, we can take the answer, so just go ahead and stick up your virtual hand and we will unmute you.
Brand Jamaica. I have a big question sign there. Who wants to go first?
Not seeing anybody volunteering outside.
No one?
No.
All right. Okay.
All right. Somebody wrote in the chat, people, music, culture. All right. We have a hand. Robin.
Okay. Awesome.
Go ahead and unmute, Robin.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
There.
Okay, so for me, brand Jamaica means it evokes a sense of an infectious culture of reggae roots, of a spirited people who are expressive, who are, just colorful. It's a melting pot. It's a whole lot of different things coming together that is extremely appealing.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for that, Robin. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm just going to play. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a bit. And I don't mean to bash anybody, because I love my culture. Bad. So let's talk about what could I talk about now? Let's talk about head top dancing, jumping off the roof. I don't know if they still do that, by the way. To demonstrate the excitement in dance, and how do we position that as part of brand Jamaica too, right? That excitement.
I think it's a part of dance, but obviously it's a part of dancehall culture, and I don't know that we can necessarily get away from it. It is part of who we are in terms of just the colorful nature of the people.
Awesome.
So I wouldn't necessarily try to shy away from it to say, oh, this is the bad part of us. It is just that you have some elements, you have some persons who are extremely expressive, and this is how they do it.
Awesome. And you notice, Robin, I deliberately didn't say dancehall, deliberately, because sometimes when we talk about brand Jamaica, there is, and you spoke to it just now, you said the bad and the good, right? But there really should be no distinction when we talk about a brand, the brand bad or the brand good. You know what I mean? It's just the brand, it's part of the brand. So and you speak about the colorful nature, so the expressive nature of dancehall. I love those words. You know what I mean? So how do we make those expressive nature and the colorful nature palatable for everyone to feel that, yes, this is part of my culture, I'm gonna own it? Because some people don't own dancehall because of that. You know what I mean? So I love that answer. Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
Who else is there, Sans?
There was another comment in the chat. Let me see if I can find it for you, because Camille Lewis has been doing a fantastic job translating for one of our attendees this morning who is hearing impaired. So he's been
fabulous. Inclusivity. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So Samara Bowden said little but Talawa.
Awesome. I love it.
All right. And somebody else said we also have food. Environment, tourism.
Food. Awesome.
Those are all parts of our
brand. Okay. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to ask another question. It might be a difficult question. It might not be for some people. So we heard adjectives such as colorful and expressive, little but tallow. The food one is easier, I guess. How do we put all of that into products that speaks to that brand? How do we do that? What do we need to do that? I'm just throwing that question out there. Maybe some answers will come in the chat. But I left this slide like this and I put some little things there: tested, authentic, made in Jamaica, unique. I remember at one point on a project, I think it was a cluster project, the concept of authentic Jamaican gift and craft. And we had a forum that now debated the idea of authenticity if it was not made in Jamaica. I don't know how some of you feel about that. Is it less authentic if it's not made in Jamaica, but the creator is Jamaican? So I remember we had a forum to debate that. If it is not made here, but the idea is birthed through a creative who is Jamaican, does that make it less authentic? I would love to see responses to those questions in the chat and your thoughts on that. So my thoughts on brand Jamaica is that it needs definition, because it means so many things to so many different things to so many of us. But it needs some parameters for definition. So when we talk about, let's talk about dancehall, the vibrancy and the expressiveness of dancehall. Should there be any parameters for that if we package that as a product? And what would those parameters be? You know, could it be that when we talk about dancehall, we're talking about the music that is 100% Jamaican, if there's ever such a thing? Because our culture is so mixed up and blended. There are so many influences on the evolution of our culture that you have to wonder, can we claim authenticity? And as again, I'm throwing out some words here to spark some thought, some real deep thinking about how we see our brand Jamaica and what does that mean. For me, when I hear brand Jamaica, for example, I am thinking about a certain high quality. No matter which part of the culture, high quality. Yeah, I'm thinking about the authenticity of it. And remember, I asked the question, if it's not made here, is it less authentic if it's not made here? Right? So these are some of the things that we have to contend with. Dana, in her comment prior, spoke about the ability to produce and to produce in volume here. You know what I mean? So if I have something that's authentic, but I cannot afford to produce it here in Jamaica, where does that position my product? Is it less authentic because it's not made in Jamaica? Do I have the ability, the opportunity to make it elsewhere and take it back because the idea is 100% Jamaican? Go ahead, Sansia.
Yeah, well, Anita Williams has a response to that. She said, being Jamaican speaks to your bloodline, not necessarily your location. So a product made outside of Jamaica by a Jamaican does not lose its authenticity.
Love it. I love that. I love that. So I'm going to throw this one out to a Things Jamaican. Mrs. Taylor, I'm not sure if you're on, maybe a member of your team. How do we give a stamp of approval for something like that? We know it's 100% conceptual Jamaican. Jamaican person come up with it, but it's produced elsewhere because of the realities of the production costs. How do we put that in the mix, but still say this is authentic Jamaican, even though it's not made here? I'm putting out some things to stir up some controversy deliberately, because we have to now think in new ways because of our realities. Let me tell you something. It's so difficult in the classroom now to teach art and design because it's expensive. It's expensive for my students. The supplies are expensive. The supplies, the majority of the supplies are imported. There's nothing, hardly anything that's made in Jamaica that you use as raw material. Hardly, I said hardly. And when it's coming in from overseas, it is expensive. But guess what? To some extent, I cannot try to, so with turn my hand and make fashion, because in doing that, there's some of the essence of process, etc., that the students will not get if they're not using some of the quote unquote authentic materials to do their art making. So it's a balancing act in the classroom, because there are some things we can teach, some techniques, some things we can find a way around it. So I was at Allow's show opening, yes, last evening, and Allow has brought to us techniques used in Nigeria for fabric production, fabric decoration, dyeing, textile dyeing, block printing, batik. Simple techniques, simple tools used, right? That we can now transform plain fabric. So we embrace that. We're glad for that. The use of these other types, simple technologies that can still give great results. But we still need the dyes, because the dyes that we get locally are not going to be sufficient for the quality of the work that you'd have seen on display for those who went last evening. So you need Procyon dyes, which come in from overseas, and they're pretty expensive, right? So for me in the classroom now, it is a balancing act, and it's also a challenge to maintain quality when you have to do a lot of compromising. And I know right across the sector, that is a challenge for many makers. The inputs to make your products are really, really expensive. So you see why I say we are not competing at a mass production level. Our inputs are expensive, so we need to shift. We have to move from trying to compete at mass market and move to, as I said, a more niche market or to a mid market, because it's expensive what we do. So for me, as I said, brand Jamaica needs a lot more, it needs more definition. So that when we use brand Jamaica, we're talking about, at least at the minimum, the highest quality of presentation, authenticity, those kinds of things. And there's room for more conversation where this is concerned. I'm running out of time. So now let's get to the meat of what I was asked to talk about. Innovation in craft production. And this is really going to be a conversation now, because I really don't have anything to present. I'm going to show you some photographs. And by the way, the photographs that you've been seeing on the slides leading up to this slide are images of locally made items, things made in Jamaica. Now, what I'm going to share with you is a little preview from my trip to New York on some of the trends that I'm seeing in some of the retail spaces. Now, what this hammered home to me on this trip is the fact that there's always going to be a place for the handmade. No matter what technology come about, whether you call it chat GTP, AI, robot, I don't care. There's always going to be a place for that item, that object that has that human touch, the human hand. And this is why there are countries, Africa, India, Japan, China, Latin America, the traditional craft will always survive because we are people. We connect with the things, with our material culture, we call it. We connect with our material culture. And there's always a place to connect on that human level. That's my view. The products you're going to see here are from a store in New York called Home Nature. And I was quite not surprised, but I was, I guess, encouraged to see these products on display. They don't make in Jamaica, but I feel connected to them because I can see many of our makers making similar products. So this here is it's a tray, a double stack tray that has a leather handle, and this is wicker. All right, really nice, really rustic, very no kind of varnish or anything on it, just the rustic natural material. Have we seen items like this in and around Jamaica? Have we seen techniques like these from the photos that you're seeing there in and around Jamaica? I know I have seen things that look similar.
I've seen them in Fontana.
Okay.
But I'm not sure they're made in Jamaica.
All right. But once upon a time, so when we look at the hamper baskets, the 3 stacked ones on my right, right away I think about the makers who used to be in St. Elizabeth. It's Middle Quarters, I think it was. Someone, I don't know if any of my Things Jamaican people are in the room, can remind me. These techniques are techniques that we have as part of our tradition in Jamaica. What you're seeing though, or what was nice to see in that space, was the fact that the scale of these objects were different and the finish impeccable. Scale and finish. So for some of us makers, we need to move away a little bit from making the tiny objects. And we need to now investigate scale, because these are objects now people are going to, whether they put it in their home as decorative objects. There are also people who collect baskets of all kinds of nature and size and material. And then there are those who are going to collect them for the very utilitarian purposes that they serve. Lots and lots and lots of textiles. I think a couple weeks ago, I saw I think it's a Japanese person here who was at Konoko in Priory in St. Anne with her loom on the lawns, demonstrating a particular Japanese weaving technique on a simple loom. So there's a possibility for that. I'm a weaver. I learned to do weaving at the Edamale College. So there are all these plush textile elements that are used as throws and scarves and cushions, and I can think about our the days of all sides workroom, the ladies who are doing the embroidery. We used to have individuals who would do there's a cutwork embroidery, there's patchwork. So when I saw this presentation, it took me right back to those kinds of home furnishing decor items. Cushions and pillows, throws are always in season. Of course, the colors and the materials will change, but these are items that are always in season. And when I saw these, the softness of the materials is really what you feel like you want to have everything. You know what I mean? Also trending now is driftwood and just the finish with raw wood. So I can't remember the name of the gentleman who does these magnificent tables here in Jamaica. Here is something I can't remember his name right now. I can think of Mr. Faulkner, for example, older gentleman who has always been doing driftwood furniture and accent pieces. These are the things that you're seeing in the stores, the retail points. So you go into not only this kind of home furnishing and decor store, but in the fashion retail spaces, the decor items are these kinds of very natural nature objects, rustic, driftwood, marble. Those are the elements that are in season now, right? And again, I can think of individuals like Evan Golson. I can think of, I guess, Bartley's All in Wood. I can think of SN Craft, makers that have used materials like this, right? There's a place for it. There is a place for it. Might not be in Jamaica, but there's a place for it. This is a stone. It's a table. It's really, really heavy, right? And again, you see all of just the natural rings of it. Ceramic objects that are on top, very, very, very you know, very minimalist type of design, not too colorful, you know, but very simple objects that become these kind of decorative objects. Here there was a whole section, just ceramic items that were just plain, not decorated, no surface design. And then the play of the very neutral colors and then some of those earth tones. So the terracotta, for example. And these are just very organic shapes, some of them looking almost very intuitive in their nature. But these were some of the objects that were in the store as part of dinnerware type accessories. Here again, we see a bench, which is a slab of wood. I know some of you are familiar with some of these. We've seen similar items, but these were some of the things that were trending in this space. As I said, the name of it, Home Nature. And then in general retail spaces, especially in the fashion retail spaces, the merchandising was centered around these very natural, rustic, earth element type objects. So after showing you all of those fancy pictures, how do we innovate and remain competitive? And I have some suggestions here. One of the ways, definitely, we have to invest in tools and equipment that improves efficiency and enables production. And this doesn't mean it always has to be high-tech. It doesn't always have to be high-tech, but we need to invest in tools that can help us, enable us to be more efficient in our production. So for example, bamboo is part of the traditional material that we use, but we can no longer be making objects just using cutlass. We have to find other tools to help refine the objects that we make. We also have to, and I spoke to this before, streamline our product offering. Sometimes we do too much, and sometimes too much can confuse the customer because then the customer doesn't know what to choose, right? So we want to start to kind of focus on those things that we do best. Focus our operation on the things that we can do best. It makes no sense to do 1,000,001 things, right? Collaboration. If we're going to remain in the game, we have to learn to collaborate, and we have to shed this idea that, boy, everybody got teeth my idea, so I'm not share it with nobody. Yes, it will happen, but guess what? You're a creative. So sometimes you are the trendsetter because everybody's looking at you to set the trend. So as the trendsetter, your focus should be always reinventing something, always a step ahead of the competition. So the time that they are spending looking at you and say, oh, she's making she's using driftwood table now, I go and make that. By the time them ready to make driftwood table, you're on to the next thing. And you're first to market with that. Right? That's part of creativity. And even with the conversation about IP registration, etc., that is very important. But believe you me, if it is you're not going to monetize that IP asset, then why do IP registration? Because the point of IP registration is to monetize. So you're protecting your asset because you want to be able to gain as much from that asset before that IP is up or before it becomes part of the public domain. So if you're only seeking to protect your ideas because you can create ideas and you go to JIPA only to protect the ideas because you can protect them, you're not being savvy. You're not being business savvy. You protect your IP because you have the intent to monetize. You're going to make some money from that idea. Or you plan to sell that idea or lease that idea to someone who can run with the production. So either way, protecting the IP is to monetize the IP, making your intellectual property asset work for you, however you see it. Okay? As I said, I'm controversial in some of my thoughts, but that's okay. Now, if you can't do it by yourself, get help. And there are agencies like JBDC, there's a DBJ. I know quite a few of the banks now have their small business units or incubators, etc. There are networks like, I think, Kingston to Creative. There are many agencies, NGOs that are there to assist individuals, makers in the sector. Utilize it. We cannot sit in our homes, in our studios, not wanting to interact, to collaborate. It's a different space now. So we got to be bold and we got to get out there. We have to take some risks. We got to get some help, right? We have to tap into the trends that speak about sustainability. That is the language out there now. And the consumers and customers are aware and they're buying into this dialogue. Tiny home movement, people reducing their what they call it, carbon footprint, all of those. It's not just a trend, you know, it's here to stay. People are making conscious decisions about where they buy, what they buy, how they engage with things that they use. So we need to look at these trends and see how we can bring that into our making, our process of making. Reuse, repurpose, upcycle. One of the things I saw in the stores, in the clothing stores, there is recycled silk, recycled polyester, recycled cotton. You're going to be seeing those in your labels now. So it's not a fad, it's here to stay. And individuals are making conscious decisions about how they engage with these, what we call the material culture. You want to move from and I said this before, move from creating just a product and instead you're creating an experience. More and more customers including yourselves, you're buying into the experience that you have, the experience you may have with this maker, the experience you may have with this retail space. Not just a product anymore. We're not just making a product. We're selling experiences as makers. We're telling stories. People buying into the story. They want to hear that, you know, you work with a community group who they're the ones who grow and harvest the thatch, and it's done in a sustainable way, and how long this has been done, you name it. They want to hear those stories because it is no longer, it's an item that they're going to keep. And remember, we talk about the sustainability trends. So you're looking at reusing, repurposing, upcycling. So now people are buying objects with a different sense. Can I reuse it? Can I repurpose it? Right? Goodwill, for example, in the US is one of those, it will be like a Salvation Army, but it's not a Salvation Army. But Goodwill is one of those spaces where more and more people, and not just people who think just don't, have no money. All classes are going to Goodwill to shop because people are making conscious decisions about what they, the things they engage with. Overconsumption has been rampant for a long time, and now people are getting much more conscious about the decisions for purchasing objects and clothing and food and you name it. Everything about their lifestyle is shifting. We want to realign and reposition the sector to its rightful market position. And I said this before, handmade is not geared towards a mass market. It is not. And I think for too long, makers in Jamaica, I think we've been bastardized because, them make it we can't bargain with them, man. We don't bargain with the lawyer, we don't bargain with the supermarket owner when we go to buy the products. You don't expect that, you must can take off 50% because of you make it down there. So no. We have to realign that. And we have to differentiate the products that we have on offer that falls within the gift and craft sector and reposition them where they belong. When a Cecile is making her Jippy Jappa hats, well, her daughters now continuing the tradition, there's a whole process that goes into that. When Bartley's All in Wood, who has taken over running her father's business, right? When they have to find the wood, sand it, make sure it's treated, then you make the product, then you market it and you package it. That's a process. That's a lot that goes into the making of that product and many others. Could name many others. So we need to start positioning the products at the right market segment. Before I end, I just want to say two other things. The craft market system in Jamaica has to change. The model is old. It is no longer of any financial benefit to the country. It's an old model. No one wants to have those kinds of experiences in the craft market anymore. And we need to find a way, we should find a way to revamp the craft market experience because it needs to be an experience. Because there's no way that you can invite individuals in a space that it just does not do well for their product. And who is going to go there? Who is going to go to the craft markets some of the craft markets, at least, the way they are presented now? We have to revise that model. That's no longer the experience that people want to have, and surely not our visitors. Nobody wants to go in a space where they're feeling hassled and they feel like, no, You want to be comfortable. You want to be able to connect online and to, post the things that you're purchasing with your friends and likes, and you want to have a more engaging, a more comfortable type of experience so that you feel comfortable looking at what makers have in the spaces. We have to present it in a different way. Our products, if we're going to move our products to a different market segment, then we have to move the presentation of our products to match, to align with what our customers are expecting. I wanted to put that there. We also need to, what was the other thing I wanted to talk about? I think I just wanted to put that plug. So there are some names that I call. I am not necessarily doing any marketing for these people, but I'm observing how they're being able to eke out their little niche in this space in Jamaica, right? So we talk about Bartley's All in Wood, talk about Sid Sill, Custom Craft, people like Bridget Sandals, Rev Jewelry, David Pinto, Beanie Buds, Local, that's Kerry Man Woman Home, new store, very nice presentation, right? They know their market segment. So that's the kind of level that we need to be moving in general with our craft. And I want to stop using the word craft and I want to say handmade. Our handmade sector, we need to make it feel sexy so that we own it. Because it is a sexy business. It is big business. And yes, we need more technology, use of technology. Yes, we need all of that. But we also need a kind of mind and attitude shift towards this awesome industry that has potential. But we have to do some homework to get to the point where we want to go. Some of us also have to come out of our comfort zone, because how many visitors come into Jamaica now? 2 million? I'm not sure of the stats right now. And then we have what? Just about 3 million of us. So we don't have enough people in Jamaica to buy all of the creativity that comes out of Jamaica. So we have to look outside to bigger markets or to niche markets that are outside of Jamaica, and not be afraid to get into those markets and to be truthful when we're engaging with these new markets about our capacity. We're in a global space. The technology has made it so accessible now. Gosh, I wish I had 20 years gone back, just the way how things have shifted so much, and that we can stay right. And there are people here staying right here in Jamaica, making their products, and they are sending it out. I also want to talk about Bauhaus Design, Dana Baugh in ceramics, who has infused the use of latest technology, but still maintaining that handmade element. So she's not trying to mass produce, but she's using the technology to enable her to do a real superb finish and consistency. So infusion of technology does not necessarily mean that we're going to have to mass produce. No, it can still be very niche, handmade quality, higher quality finish, targeted market. All right. So those are my 2 cents for the morning. Sansia, do we have time for discussion, open conversation now? I think I've done enough talking.
I'm just realizing that it's 11:56. Oh my God, Laura, you enjoyed yourself. This is fabulous. It was really a rich presentation, though. The chat never stopped.
I should keep you right now.
Yeah, it continues straight throughout. And I really want to say thanks to Kenny Lewis, who really translated everything that you said for our
awesome.
our another attendee, Karen Biza, I think her name is, she's in the
Okay.
room, but she is hearing impaired. And she was concerned that she wouldn't have been able to participate, but she got a chance to. And of course, we will be able to, she will be able to review it on
Fa-
YouTube using the caption method. So thank you very
Fabulous.
much, Kenil. We can give him a, what you call it, a virtual round of applause, everybody. He deserves it because him just stayed there with her and just won for the whole time. Yes, please give him a round of applause.
Awesome, 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 awesome.
I'm trying to find my reactions to give him a hand clap, but I can't find it. So I'm just gonna give him a thumbs up. All right, so there was a lot that was said.
Santia, hold on, just a sec. I'm not cutting you. I want to. I can't. I don't know why my thing not scrolling. Someone said here she wish she had 20 years. What was that?
That is Kenil transmitting what you said.
Oh, got you, got you, got you,
That's
got
what
you.
it
I
is.
see. Got
Yeah,
you, got
that's what
you.
it is.
Awesome,
So a lot
awesome.
was said here this morning, but the essence of it is that we need to change the industry. We need to infuse technology and remember that handmade, because we really want to move away from calling it gift and craft or craft generally. We want to move away from that and recognize that handmade is a niche market. We're not trying to approach mass with what we have. Rather, we're trying to get to those specific persons who can find the value in the fact that there's a story behind it. My grandmother taught me this skill, or this is what I use to express myself. This is what it's about. And it also will lead to what you may call it, those customized products as well, the production of customized products. So always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you got nothing else out of today, handmade is a niche market, never mass. All right, any questions from anybody? Oh, Dana said we need to swap the word niche to luxury.
Ah, there you go, Dana. I love it.
Yeah,
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, man.
And that's a whole other business right there when you talk about the luxury market. Definitely.
All right. So for Shanique McIntosh McPherson, we will make contact with you. We have your email address. She says that she would love to continue this discussion as she's currently trying to apply the business model and all that she has learned today. I suspect it has really helped her to put some things in perspective. So we will make contact with you, Shanique, and see how best we can connect you with one of our BDOs. And
Sansel,
take it from
sorry,
there.
not to cut you. I'm just looking at a thing here from Dana that spoke about people not knowing how to price, cost and price. And that is a very crucial thing. I think there needs to be some more assistance there for costing and pricing so individuals can actually, do the right costing and then apply the right pricing for products. And this is why I said in the presentation, you have to record it. You can't leave it in your head. It has to be written down. Because when you write it on paper and you see the inputs, all the inputs, then you're able to make a more discerning thing about your price. The price is what you're going to sell the thing for. The cost is the inputs, what it costs you to make it, all of the things. So that's a very crucial point. And I don't know if JBDC has plans to have more workshops in that. That might be a good thing for our makers.
That is what I would have said following what you said, that we do have costing and pricing workshops, and we take into consideration all different types of businesses. So don't think that if you are making a sauce versus making a craft item, that we would not be able to support whatever it is that you're doing. So we have these workshops from time to time. So, just pay attention to our social media, as I said before, and you will be able to grab that information. Go ahead, Laura.
One other thing I missed to say, and when we spoke about, thank you, Sansia, the importance of the documentation of our traditions. These were some points that I thought are very important to documentation. So when you're documenting process, you're documenting the materials, you're documenting recipes, you're documenting the technology, you're documenting the shapes, forms, and style for posterity. And if we don't have it documented, the next generation won't have a clue about some of the things that we used to do. Because I get it in the classroom now, where people think that, oh man, no, Jamaica never used to do anything. We don't know them style. If we're not documenting, we're losing that knowledge. And the next generation will always think that it was never done. That's my last word.
All right, thank you so much again, Laura. So for all the persons reaching out to say that they would like to talk to a BDO, I have made note of it, and I will definitely make contact. We will make contact with you through a BDO so that you can come into the system. We have a very comprehensive system here where we literally help you from concept to market. It's a hand-holding process. You'll be assigned a BDO, and then they will assist you in getting that business out. There's a comment that I'm trying to find. Okay, there was some more advice that was being given online here. Somebody said they wanted, somebody suggested that reach out to JBDC for a spreadsheet for the sector. Importantly, we don't have a spreadsheet for the specific craft sector, but there are a lot of resources on our website, www.jbdc.net. I encourage you, everyone here, I'm going to type it in the chat, and all you can do is just go online, take a look, see what we have, what resources we have that will be able to assist you in carrying your business forward, moving to the next level until it is that you get in contact with that BDO, right? There are some other questions about duty concessions, unimported tools. So we will have a BDO make contact with you, definitely. Laura, you had your hand up again?
No, I should stop. But I'll say this though. I'll say this. So I know JBDC will encourage our makers or entrepreneurs to register, to formalize, because in formalizing, you can access additional assistance. Yes. But I also want to say, don't feel pressured to formalize if you're not ready to formalize in that sense. But work on ensuring that whatever you're delivering is of the highest quality, right? So that when you're at the point of registration, there's no if and but or maybe, right? So I want to encourage entrepreneurship on a level where even if you don't feel like you're ready to formalize, but you're working with that bigger picture in mind, that so you spend the time to do all of that kind of groundwork, right? And then once you're ready to go, you're ready to go. But I know JBDC encourages the registration upfront, right? Only because, as I said, there's so much more assistance that you can get when you have formalized your business.
That is very true. Very, very true. And in response to your question, Dana, as I said, there are a number of resources on our website. But if all that fails, the great Google is available. A lot of employment contracts, costing spreadsheets, and these are really easy to manipulate and so on. They are online. You can also use the YouTube app and literally type in how to do a spreadsheet, and you will get a video with a tutorial as to how to get that done. So no actually presentation isn't being done at the beach. It's just a background. I should have put up my beach background because it helps with the.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so thank you very much again, Laura, for sharing with us this morning. Really a very informative presentation. Thank you everyone for sharing, for coming and staying with us for more than 2 hours, right? Remember the presentation has been recorded. It will be available on our YouTube channel by Friday of this week. But you can also follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then you will also be able to access any of the other information that we share on a daily basis. If you are not on our mailing list, you can always join from our website, www.jbdc.net, and we send out information at intervals, whether it's from us or if it's information that is within the MSME network that is useful to you, we're going to send that out to you as well. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and have a great rest of the day.